resorted to dua to Allah Azza wa Jal to protect this new community. And he said, "O Allah, should this group of Muslim be defeated today, you will no longer be worshipped on this earth." Which means, really, these are the group of believers that it took Rasulullah ﷺ up to today. It's 5 years of da'wah to assemble this group of 300 or so. And if they are annihilated, that is it. The end of worship to Allah and unity of Allah is completed. And so, by Allah's grace, in this first encounter between the weak group of Muslims and Quraysh suffered a stunning defeat. Their numbers, what they brought with them, was of no help, and Allah decreed that they shall be defeated. And so they ran away. Initially, during the battle, their biggest leaders were finished off very early on in the battle, and so they ran away in total confusion. And the defeat itself was a matter of great shame to the people of Mecca. How could this small community, weak, new, defeat the pride, the honor to participate in another battle? They suggested, no, we should go outside and meet them. And so Rasulullah ﷺ, out of his respect for his companions and respect for the matter of Shura, he took their position and said, yes, we are going to go out and meet them. He had prepared about 700 fighters to meet this power of 3,000 fighters. So it's less than a third of what Quraysh had prepared. More than that, when they were about to meet the Qurayshis, a contingent of the hypocrites pulled out from the ranks of Muslims. This contingent was not small. It was 300 people. So 1/3 of the army pulled out. And so they were left with very little to meet the Qurayshis. However, during the initial engagement, subhanallah, just like it happened in Badr, the Qurayshis did not really hold for too long. And the Muslims had the upper hand in the original portion of the battle, in the first stage of the battle. It was reported that Rasulullah ﷺ had positioned a group of Sahaba on the top of the mountain, the archery group, to defend Muslims against Qurayshis coming from the back of the mountain. And he had asked them not to leave their positions, even if they saw them victorious collecting the booty of war and so forth. Don't move from your positions. But it is the destiny of Allah to teach lessons to Muslims, that the word of the Prophet should not be disobeyed. This group of archers, when they saw the Muslims victorious and the disbelievers fleeing the battlefield, they said the battle is over. And so they descended down to join the victorious Muslims. At that time, there was a leader of Quraysh called Khalid ibn al-Walid, who later became the most famous general in the history of Islam. He joined Islam and became the most famous fighter. But he was still on the side of Quraysh. He came from the back of the mountain, and the tide of the battle turned around. It was a major calamity in which a large number of Sahaba were lost, and at their head was Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, and one of the biggest fighters in Badr. He was the biggest fighter in Badr. He succumbed to the attack of Quraysh at the time. In fact, he really, it was a hired hand that killed him. It was not really during a fight that they killed him, but it was a hired hand that killed him from distance. And so this was the result, that Allah wanted to teach the Muslims that if you disobey Allah and His Messenger, those are the situations that you would face. So this was the Battle of Uhud in the year 3 of Hijrah. After that, the peninsula saw some lull of peace and security. But despite that, the enemies of Islam did not swallow this. All the wars that have taken place so far, even those battles that the Muslims had lost significant losses and suffering, in the overall scheme of things, the power of Muslims was still on the ascending. They were not broken, and they were becoming more and more organized, and people were joining the ranks of Islam, and the call of Islam was reaching to more and more people. And so an alliance was formed between the Jewish tribes, Quraysh, and all other major tribes of Peninsula, of the Arab Peninsula. The all joint effort this time, and they said, we are going to go to the heart of this new movement called Islam, and to the heart of the seat of power of Muhammad ﷺ, that is Medina. We're going to go and attack Medina. But Rasulullah ﷺ, he had his ears, people who were bringing him news of this coming and so forth. And so he organized the Muslims and he got their opinion. And subhanallah, one Sahabi, Salman al-Farisi, suggested that they should stay in Medina, dig a trench around Medina, and defend Medina from behind the trench. So when the Muslims attacked Medina and came close to the outskirts of the city, they were stunned. This is the first time in the history of warfare in the Arab Peninsula where they saw a trench. They are not used to this. And so instead of full engagement between a small force of 1,000 and a large force of the invaders of 10,000, they could not even get close. So it became shouting with arrows and so forth from distance. And subhanallah, after the invaders tried and attempted to cross the trench and skirmishes took place and so forth, they realized that they cannot do anything. And so they decided to lay siege against Medina and stay outside of Medina and cause starvation to Medina. That's all what they could do. Subhanallah, while the Muslims were defending, they also were praying to Allah Azza wa Jal to protect them. And Allah Azza wa Jal responded with something that nobody expected. He sent a weather system that was so harsh, a wind, a bitter cold. Remember, these Qurayshis and their allies were camping outside of Medina, beyond the trench, in their tents and cooking and fires and all of that. And so Allah Azza wa Jal sent bitter rain, bitter cold, high winds. The winds blew the tents. They blew away their fires so they could not cook food. And they said even their utensils used to fly in the air from the wind. And so they dispersed. And each tribe went back without accomplishing the goal that they came to eradicate Islam. And this was a major victory. This was a resounding victory without too much losses. And its news spread so quickly in the peninsula, because remember, when Quraysh and the allies joined this effort, the entire peninsula knew about it. That's how they collected these 10,000 men. And so the fact that after all this effort, they dispersed with nothing achieved was completely a new phase in the conflict between Islam and the idolaters, which is now, we have done everything and this deen is here to stay and is here to grow.